Greetings, my fellow freedom lovers and sovereign thinkers. This is LL3's newest podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful Beehive State, which is known as Utah. And today's date, Friday, August 28th, 2015. Yep, just still in Roy City to be exact, which is north of Salt Lake City. And this mellow Friday night. If you want to relax a little bit and give a shout out to some of the people that are out there in South Florida preparing themselves for Tropical Storm Erica. And hopefully all you folks out there be safe. I'm thinking about you every day. Alright. And another one goes out to the Hartman brothers, which I heard they were fans of mine on my show, and I thank them for their support, and hopefully they're spreading the word. Yeah, a good friend of mine, Ralph, told me about it. Check out the band Crude Brood. Ridiculously entertaining. So, you gotta really just check them out. They're fun. Old school rock. I just love it when the bassist sounds like, it looks like a pretty boy. He's like, "Hey honey, you find me hot?" But he's a good guy, so check him out when you have a chance. Crude Brood, very good guys. And I think the one I'm going to be talking about for a moment, I'm going to be doing topics, of course, events, current events, like I do mostly. And so I just check on my Facebook page, and recently, this is a gentleman named Howard Davis Jr. He's a promoter now for the mixed martial arts. He's well known in the boxing and especially the boxing world, which he won the gold medal in 1976 with the same lineup with Sugar Ray Leonard, I believe Leon and Michael Spinks as well, which they won the gold medals in Montreal, Canada, Quebec, in 1976. That's the time even Bruce Jenner won the decathlon. And I just found out yesterday that he was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. Even though they had their first annual foundation, it was like a couple of weeks ago, but you could still get in contact with them and do some donations. I would like to read this here. It says, he broke records as a young amateur boxer, was known for having some of the fastest hands in boxing, and taught many fighters the sweet science of boxing. Now Howard Davis Jr. is in the toughest fight of his life. When Howard Davis Jr. was diagnosed with lung cancer, it was a shock to himself, loved ones, and fans across the globe. The 1976 boxing gold medalist has lived clean and healthy life. It was just days before his 59th birthday in February 2015 when he was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. The cancer has metastasized to his liver and parts of his bones. Howard Davis and his family were devastated and worried about the future, unsure of what would be the next course of action. After weeks of research, Dr. Davis Jr. decided to combine both traditional cancer-fighting methods as well as natural forms of healing. Dr. Davis Jr. told his story to the Sun Sentinel newspaper in July of 2015, and the story of his battle made headlines worldwide. Never one to back out of a fight, Howard Davis Jr. was motivated and encouraged to do more in order to help others facing the same scenario that changed his life. That's when Howard Davis Jr. Foundation, a nonprofit organization, was launched. The purpose to help cancer patients arm themselves with the arsenal in the fight against this deadly disease. Many patients like Howard have chosen non-traditional methods which aren't covered by insurance. The battle to fight cancer becomes even more complex without financial assistance, but now there's a way to help others. He did have this VIP dinner fundraiser, and the purpose of it was, to find an alternative path to fight cancer. The Howard Davis Jr. Foundation was formed to be a source for education to help those who have found themselves financial hardship as they fight cancer the alternative way. Others events to come: 5K run, public ski beacon engagements, public television appearances, fundraising drives, and much more. Join us to help fight patients nationwide to knock out cancer one person at a time. Like he says here, cancer knocked me down but not out. That's Howard Davis Jr. And you get the information on top of the page here. Is info at howarddavis.com. JR, which is for Junior, Foundation.org, which is HOWARDDAVS JR or you can call them at 954-848-2833. They do have upcoming events besides that, and you can donate now. There's a link for that. And I am going to put this on my footnotes. Everything I'm going to be addressing will be on my footnotes on my Spreaker page. So please, I think this is really a great opportunity to support a good man. And even a person myself admit he was very hospitable, honorable. He loved what he does as a promoter and what he achieved as a boxer. I always had cool conversations with him. I had a pleasure of working with him doing shows. I used to help do sound for him at the Wilmore Auditorium in city of Fort Lauderdale, Florida to be exact. And I had a fallout not with the promotions, but with the city, with their BS politics. It did demoralize our atmosphere, the environment. So that's one of the reasons why I just said I just had to quit. And it was a shame because I always enjoy doing his events for Fight Time Promotions. And Carla, she's the mastermind too. I wasn't so sure with her at first, but then I started listening. And she's like the financer, bankroller, I would say, and out of respect. And she's really put her money in her mouth is to get this event going for Fight Time Promotions, and I'm very happy to see it get bigger. And contract with CBS, they tried to do stuff with they did stuff with HBO, and they're doing events at the Big City Casino, or if I'm correct, was Flag Through Dog Track. And like I said, he's always been. Him and the organization has always been great, and so that's why I believe this man needs a lot of love and support. It is essential because no one wants to see their fellow loved ones, even my enemies. I will never see them when they're down like that. We got to bring their spirits up, support this organization the best you can. You can contact them, have interviews. I have to give him a lot of courage for speaking out and what he achieved in his life. So, like I said, I always enjoyed working with them, and I just like my homage to put this out there, address this information to you guys around the world as well that may not know. So, definitely support the Howard Davis Jr. Foundation. They're looking for alternative methods of beating cancer, which the big mainstream insurance companies don't want to touch. You could thank the Affordable Care Act and the HMO Act in 1973. Very, like I would say, neo-mercantilism and fascistic on their part. But please just check it out. Go if you're in South Florida, or if you're coming to South Florida, these events are around where you're at. Support this person, throw some money, throw some love, even chat with the man, because he is a great person, and I have a lot of respect for what he did, what he achieved in his life. So, and my thoughts and prayers go to him and his family and beyond. So, like I said, give a little love there, my friends. Even though we may bicker on things in life, but when you think about it, with stuff like this, everything else, most of the stuff we complain about is just petty. So definitely check out his site. You could say, look the third endorsed it. That's okay. He probably don't know me, so he probably remember me if he sees me in person. But it's all good. But definitely. Check it out, and I do digress. All right, first thing let's start scrambling what the hell I want to talk about first. And this was interesting. Came from the globalresearch.ca. And this one's entitled Financial Times Call for Abolishing Cash to Give More Power to Central Banks. Oh, really? So the Financial Times wants us to sell their soul to the One World Order. It proves one thing, they are bend-over bobs. However, this was been written by Paul Joseph Watson, which he does stuff for InfoWars, PrisonPlanet.com. Always observe responsibly, but he does have some a lot of great pointers as well. And I'm going to pursue here. And as it reads, Financial Times has published an anonymous article which calls for the abolition of cash in order to give central banks and governments more power. Anonymous. That proves one thing: the person who wrote it, their testicles are in their mouth or their guts are up their anus. All right, as it reads here, entitled "The Case for Retiring Another Barbarous Relic." The article laments the fact that people are stockpiling cash in anticipation of another economic collapse, a factor which is causing a lot of distortion to the economic system. The existence of cash, a bearer instrument with zero interest rates, limits central banks' ability to stimulate and depressed economy. Oh, really? Oh, yeah, central banks, please, Marcus J. Roth, please, Rothschilds, think for me, rah, rah, rah. Okay, now we'll continue on here. I will continue on here by saying the worries that the people will change deposits for cash if a central bank moves rates into negative territory, states the article. Complaining that cash can be tracked and cannot be tracked and traced, the writer argues that the abolition would make it easier for governments set on squeezing the informal economy out of existence. Oh yeah, he just got his purses really, really sharp, you know. Okay, I will continue on here. Abolishing cash will give governments more power to lift taxes directly from people's bank accounts, the author argues, noting how value-added tax, for example, could be automatically levied and reimbursed in real time on transactions between liable bank accounts. The writer also called for punishing people who say cash by making users pay for the privilege of anonymity, so they will remain affected by monetary policy. Dated banks notes would lose their value over time, while people will also be charged by banks for swapping electronic reserves for physical cash and vice versa. The article echoes an argument made by Kenneth Rogoff, former chief economist of the International Monetary Fund, or IMF, who has called for high-denomination banks notes such as €100 and $500 notes, notes to be phased out of existence. Oh, as we previously reported, Rogoff attended a meeting in London earlier this year where he met representatives from the Federal Reserve, the ECB, as well as participants from the Swiss and Danish central banks. The issuing of banning cash was a forefront of the agenda. Last year, Rogoff also called for abolishing physical currency in order to stop tax evasion and illegal activity. Yes, so as well as preventing people from withdrawing money when interests are close to zero. You hear that, folks? They want to rule you. Because you know why? Because they're a bunch of treasonous global scumbags. And I will continue on here. The agenda to ban cash was also discussed at this year's secretive Bilderberg Group meeting, which was attended by the Financial Times chief economist commentator Martin Wolf. Yep, another butt boy to the New World Order. A former Bank of England economist, Jim Leavis, penned an article for the London Telegraph earlier this year in which he said a cashless society would only be achieved by forcing everyone to spend only by electronic means from an account held at a government-run bank, which it would be monitored or even directly controlled by the government. Could we sing 1984? All right, and proceed. In the UK, banks are treating the withdrawal of cash in amounts as low as £5,000 as suspicious activity, while in France this will be banned from making cash payments over €1,000 from Tuesday onwards. The withdrawal and deposit of cash over the amount of 1,000 euros will also be subject to ID verification. Yes, because they don't trust you. They believe they push a pencil or pen, their wrist hurts. They claim they are smarter than you on handling money. Can we say big nanny? I think Michael Bloomberg and Charlie Christie may be climaxing on us. Say, hey, they think like us. We should just go there and have a big orgy, symbolically speaking. And for continue on here, there is no more egregious anti-liberty economic policy imaginable than banning cash, writes Michael Krieger, which he does write a lot of good stuff too. I think it's called Liberty Blitzkrieg. And I did some of his stuff. I always read some of his stuff on my show as well. So, and of course here, if cash were involuntarily ended, there would be a surge in demand for physical gold and silver, which would then necessitate a ban on those items. Then the cycle of economic and financial tyranny would be complete, and crawling our way out of it nearly impossible. And you can subscribe to Paul Joseph Watson's YouTube page. And it's from Prison Planet Live. And like I said, people may criticize Alex Jones or InfoWars and all that, but the whole thing is the information. You always got to examine everything thoroughly. But this right here, he's absolutely right, because if you hear some of my shows, I know Sweden's planning to do a cashless society, and Denmark, they're trying to do the same thing. And you got these little dorky kids, oh yeah, that'd be more efficient for us. I'm like, you know what, I want to shove my foot up your rear end and make you taste it. Will you like that? Give them a good reality check, because that's what the government will do. And Big Brother, they'll just shove their foot up their rear end and go, how come you doing that for? You know why? Because when I hear that, that's what we call the Ed Benez's propaganda playbook. They're trying to make you brainwash. Go, okay, we could do a cashless society because you guys can't handle money. And one thing I prefer, my friends out there, worldwide, take a chance, invest in gold and silver, physical gold and silver, as soon as possible. A little here and a little there will make wonders, and even try to see what your community can do on a local level of handling, other finances and do trades and so forth with one another to get economics going, because that's even that happened during the Great Depression in the United States. You got people working together from every county. So my best bet to everyone out there is to support local levels first, okay? Instead of relying on the national government or federal government, it doesn't matter where you at. You guys should piss on them, including the Federal Reserve, the IMF, and the World Bank. And some people, oh well, the World Bank is pretty good. I'm like, yeah, you know what? They're just giving you the big penile microphone to talk to, and I say it symbolically. But the truth of the matter is, have physical money, gold and silver, even in including the United States, which is in our Constitution, gold and silver coins. And I recommend too to start legislating, and the people who are state or local servants that listen to the show should take the initiative on doing legislation on using gold and silver as money. A good example is the Utah is the Constitutional Tender Act, which they say that Utah did something like that for they've been using for gold and silver for certain things, which is a good start. It's a word on their version, but it's a very good oracle. And of course, what's going on in Texas with their gold depositories, and soon going to be silver as well. So those are the ideas that keep us going without going to Washington D.C. goes, help us. They want to be like Sweet Pie Purebred from Underdog or Big City. They want our world to be like Underdog. And you know what? I say to hell with them. But definitely prepare yourself. Urban farming is fantastic. Even get involved with woofing organization. There's lots of them all over the United States and the world. Work with them. They give you a hand in a few things, but you got to help. They'll help that you got to do your part as well. Be a member and start networking there also. And a good thing too is people should know about. People may talk smack about the Mormons and the Amish, but they know that when it comes to off the grid techniques, they're they're really fantastic at that. And it's always good to educate yourselves, if you can, to learn how to store food and how to be self-contained, and of course electricity, and how to keep their place warm and cold, etc. those are the things people should be learning, instead of like going to big Washington D.C. and call up our Lord and Savior Barry Soetoro, Barack Obama, or some other bonehead will be coming in the next election. Don't believe the hype, but just be ready, prepare yourselves the best you can, and stay and pay attention. And I would recommend too, talk to your banks about these things, and including including your credit unions. And if they're for this, explain what. And they say you have the right to know, especially remember, explain why. Because as far as I'm concerned, they need us more than we need them, not the other way around. So definitely prepare yourself, be self-contained, work with others, and help yourselves, and help those that could do the same. Help those that help themselves as well. And we can really be successful and achieve a lot more than just waiting for them and going, help me. Overall, I'm not saying government's all bad, but you got tyrants in everywhere, in a lot of places. This is just a prime example. So that'll be it in that area. Next one here is comical. It came from the Libertarian Republic. And it is Jeb Bush. I have libertarian blood in my veins. I bet you he read that from his teleprompter. Hey, I was there when he declared his candidacy to be president of the United States at Miami-Dade Community College South Campus, and he was reading from a big teleprompter, so it's like one in each end. So go figure that. Probably someone told him how to wipe his ass as well. So I will continue on here. It was written by Austin Peterson. Came out today. As here, speaking to a crowd of Republicans, presidential candidate Jeb Bush attempted to convince the crowd that he has libertarian blood running through his veins. I'm sorry, this is comical. Yeah, the man who climaxes for supporting an empire. That's the one thing about Jeb Bush. He's pro-imperialism. He's just another New World Order butt boy. Okay, so and I say that based on his actions. I will continue on. A Quinnipiac University poll shows Donald Trump receives 28% support from mostly Republicans voters in the 17-member field. Next closest would be Ben Carson, who came in at 12%. Only 7% they would vote for former Florida Jeb Bush. Trump has described Bush harshly. He's a man that doesn't want to be doing what he's doing, Trump said. I call him the reluctant warrior, and warrior is probably not a good word. I think Bush is an unhappy person. I don't think he has any energy. Bush advisors have warned him not to attack Trump from the left on immigration, but the Bush family has always been more libertarian on the immigration issue. Jeb suffered in the eyes of Republican voters when he emphasized with illegals, arguing that when illegal immigrants come to America to feed their children, that is an act of love and an act of commitment for your family. Yeah, go figure. Jeb Bush is just another flip-flopping stooge. All right, there's some things as governor, I'll say he did some good. I'm not gonna say, I say some, so don't tell me I'm gonna praise this man. He's not my idol or my Lord and Savior, okay? So just don't even think about that. But it was funny when Donald Trump said about him being a reluctant warrior. Warrior is probably not a good word. It's funny because I'm not even a Trump supporter myself. All right, but there are certain areas he's been pissing off or ticking off the establishment. That's one thing I'll give him that for. I've seen him speak I see him speak one time at the Broad Convention Center for Fort Lauderdale, I think it was 2005, and he was entertaining. The guy was a character, and he's entertaining, and but I just have to say about Jeb, he has got libertarian blood running through his veins. I'm like, yeah, but just someone told him to say that based on the reading the teleprompter. He didn't say that from his own heart. And that's why I just laugh at these guys like Jeb Bush. And one person sent me sent on Facebook of a picture of Jeb Bush that says Obama now available in vanilla. I think that's fantastic. So if you see me post it on Facebook as my comments, you understand, because it is like bread and circuses when it comes to the presidential elections. And and of course, I'm just one thing we can say too, that I've been telling people that, like in my past episodes, he did talk about on Sunshine State News in the report that he wants to emulate himself as Lyndon B. Johnson. So that's not really libertarian, I would say. And of course, he gave some medal award to Hillary Clinton, and thinks he said he's such a great person, even though I have my disagreements with him. And I will have to say this in my personal view: don't be surprised if Hillary Clinton and Jeb Bush are the wicked fraternal twins. Okay, so that's just how I have to see these things. And of course, with the immigration, all right, when I know people are talking smack about Donald Trump about immigration, illegal immigration, I always say this: they have when it comes to legal immigration, even illegal immigration, they have the criminal elements coming in, just like the people in that particular country. And that's when it comes to especially legal immigrants and immigrants that are violent criminals, don't bring them in. But the whole thing is that they say, "Oh, you're being a racist." No, I'm not. I'm being ethical. And everyone has their, even though in the Constitution we have to protect, the federal government has to protect this the territory from invaders, from repel invasion, and that's considered trespassers. So when you look at that, they're called trespassers. And illegal immigration is not just a problem in the United States; it's happening around the world. Okay, even Hungary is having illegal immigration issues as well. So, but like I said, on an ethical basis, it doesn't matter what they look like or if they have the same surname as mine. If you're in here illegally, if you're gonna commit crimes, yeah, you're gonna get taken out or get your ass shipped out. That's how I see it. But there's good folks out there, absolutely, and they have their reasons. Yes, they have their reasons. They're gonna take care of their families. But that's how I look at it. Is you gotta be a little bit more thorough. But one thing for sure, what's going on with the illegal immigration in the United States and Mexico is it's all part of the North American Union agenda. And I know I read stuff on judicialwatch.org. Judicial Watch did have documents on that, and illegal immigration is part of the North American Union, which is also known as the Club of Rome platform. So just don't. If you go after just them, the immigrants, illegal immigrants themselves, they're just pawns. They want us to fight amongst each other. Okay, that's how I observe things. It's a divide and rule game. You have to know the real enemy, and that's why I always say this in good faith. Like I say everything in good faith. That immigration policy is biased. It's got to be equal across the board. I don't care if you have the same surname as mine and all look like me. If you're here illegally and you especially want to commit crimes, you're gonna get blowback. Guarantee you that. So something to really think about, my friends. And I'm going to continue on here and always observe responsibly. Another one here I've checked out. It says a petition from Term Limits for U.S. Congress.com. It's an e-petition, and it's interesting here. It tells you why they want this. It says here, we undersigned, being 18 years or older and legal residents of the state of, hereby petition the legislature to this state to apply the U.S. Congress for purpose of convening in Article 5 for sole purpose to impose term limits on the U.S. Congress. Furthermore, it is on the request that the amendment defined below at the convention verbatim. It says here, no person shall be elected as appointed or as a member of the U.S. Congress if the duration of the terms for which the person is elected or appointed in its entirety defined as within the Article 1 of the United States Constitution would result in the person serving more than 12 years of his or her life in the United States Congress. Upon ratification of this amendment, a current member of the United States Congress whose total number of years in the United States Congress exceeds 12 years shall be allowed to complete the existing term for which he or she has been previously elected. Said allowance for completion of the existing term shall not justify exclusion for the member from actions beyond the scope of this amendment that lead to termination from the United States Congress prior to the completion of the existing term. So they want you to sign this, and it sounds good, but the question I have on these term limits, I want to find out what they got to say here on why term limits. I'm just going to check this out. So the whole thing I'm really a bit concerned about, because you got a lot of people been there 30, 40 years, and they got like $25 billion. They've been in there since in 22 years. And here's the thing I have to say about it. How come if the states decide to hold the money, okay, 10th Amendment style, they can hold the money, terminate their lifetime benefits, okay? That is the first thing we should do. Alright? That's the first thing we should do, is get rid of their benefits, period. And you know what's going to happen? Exercise do 10th Amendment obligations and even terminate and exterminate their lifetime benefits, pensions, health insurance, etc. You know what's going to happen? They will drop like flies. They will just get out immediately, maybe do 2 to maybe 4 years at the most, and they'll get the hell out of there. And you don't really need legislation. Just legislate that what I addressed aforementioned. And don't get me wrong, this is a good idea, but you got to get a lot. There's other areas, avenues, and how to do that. And even too, certain state constitutions, I'll say two, believe it or not, is California and New Jersey. They do have a section in their articles about recall, and you can recall not just local and state legislative servants, but your federal servants as well. And I support that too. Do a recall on these bastards. And even for the Senate, repeal the 17th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. But people can vote for the Senate, because during that time, before 1913, the states appointed the Senate to go to Washington. They're considered ambassadors. And if they screw up, you can do immediate recall on them too. Call them out, and you can get rid of them a lot better than complaining. So it sounds good, but you have to look at everything thoroughly. And we don't really need a congressional convention. That's totally absurd. We got the 10th Amendment. We can use that and shove it down their throats, because this is how I see things a lot more thoroughly. But I do give these people credit, because they are trying to make a difference. So you can sign it. It's up to you. I'm not saying I'm going to do it or not, but I'm still undecided. But I will add my 2 cents in there on how and how to make it, how my views are. And people do when I do post that on Facebook, and people do it on Facebook and Twitter. You know what? They thank me on my comments, because that's the way you can do it. You gotta really stick it to them, okay? So this is all I'm gonna say about that, and I'm gonna take it back to the e-petition. And this is another one here from PersonalLiberty.com. This is done by John Rappaport, and it's entitled, "What Happened to Tony Montana If Trump Gets Rid of Gangs?" It's from Personal Liberty, and it says here, in an interview Tuesday evening with Univision anchor Jorge Ramos, Donald Trump said he will get rid of the gangs in America. That's starting at 2 minutes and 36 seconds. Boom. That's much, much easier said than done. But why is Trump, that fast-talking cowboy, the only presidential candidate in memory, has put elimination of gangs near the top of his do list, or even mentioned them at all? Why does Trump, whom so many people think of nothing as more more than a predatory capitalist. Spending a second talking about gang scourge that locks up and imprisons so many Americans in inner cities makes them fearful of leaving, aka recruiters for gangs. Why is Trump touching the never-touch electric wire called gangs? Has Barack Obama, who professes to make all Americans equal, ever seriously mentioned gangs? Has he ever mentioned that the fate of so many Americans in the city slums are deeply affected by gang crime and gang control? Has he ever discussed in public the murder and maiming numbers, the human numbers racked up by gangs? He be too busy getting the Trans-Pacific Partnership Treaty passed, thus sinking the economy to new lows? Well, there it is. The drug business, yes. U.S. gangs transport and sell drugs for the cartels. The recent case of Jesus Vicente Zambada Niebla in Chicago exposed a long-suspected U.S. government partnership with the Mexican Sinaloa cartel. Basically, the feds permit Sinaloa clean drugs routes all the way up to Chicago, where lesser gangs handle distribution to other American cities via still other gangs. In return, Sinaloa provides the feds actionable intelligence on its rival Mexican cartels. And of course, when you talk about the drug business, you talk about banks laundering billions and billions and billions of dollars. Trump might want to think about all this. It explains a great deal. It explains why more heavily scripted politicians avoid the subject of gangs altogether. Drug money is the sugar for banks. U.S.-based gangs sell the drugs. All sorts of people, usual and unusual suspects, scrape off pieces of the action in cash. Businesses and companies, including some of Wall Street, here and there, do very nicely as a result of drug money. The unofficial U.S. government policy includes this principle. If the drug business needs U.S. gangs as a vital component, then sacrificing the lives and futures and day-to-day safety of millions of people living with gangs in inner cities is a small price to pay. Meanwhile, mountains of bullshit rhetoric can be expended on concern for those very same inner city residents. Whole agendas consisting of politically correct this and politically incorrect that can be formed, enlisting the innocent and brain-added youth of the nation. Hollywood can make a few thousand movies about the drug biz and never release the actual setup from the lowest to the highest levels. And colleges, you can forget about professors laying out the real story. Though Trump has just taken another crazy turn. He mentioned gangs. He said he intends to get rid of them. What a lunatic. Watch his poll numbers rise even higher if he keeps talking about the issue. Because untold millions of Americans have felt for a long time that going after gangs is exactly what this country needs to do. Of course, the American people must be crazy too. What do they know? We don't need a war on gangs. What we need is another HBO series about drug gangsters in prison. Yes, absolutely. And for those who think ending the war on drugs and legalizing every chemical known to man will eliminate gangs, I have news for you. The products don't create the culture, not at the core. The people who rob the lives of decent citizens will always find a way to do that, just as mega corporations will always find a way. But don't worry, surely Hillary Clinton will present a major policy on gangs. Surely will come out swinging, and wait, I seem to remember something about her husband Bill and Mena, Arkansas, an airport, wasn't it? Cocaine deliveries, and there was a CIA project to build munitions factories in Arkansas, which Bill's greenlighted. The agency thought it would be easier to make their own guns rather than trade cocaine for them. Terry Reid and John Cummings wrote in a book all about this compromised. But that's an old history. Who cares? Maybe it's just a bad dream. Anyway, back to Trump. He just can't keep his big trap shut. First First, it was putting back tariffs on U.S. imports, thus creating a huge number of jobs again for Americans. Now it's gangs. He's obviously need a week or two in the psych ward. One of those powerful antipsychotic drugs will slow him down. Then we can return to a reasonable and dignified presidential campaign. Sanitized debates, puffball rhetoric, generalities, Jeb Bush versus Hillary Clinton, familiar ground, liars we know, the thieves and killers. Dynasty the series running on all channels. Comfort food, John Rappaport. Oh yeah, I like how he says that, because there's some drama here and there, and it's always a stage, my friend, yeah? This is why I just get a big laugh when people talk about Donald Trump this, Donald Trump that, and they say he's a racist. And you know me, I seen the video with Jorge Ramos, and he was actually interrupting. Like, everyone's trying to raise their hand, he was interrupting. Alright, and I'm not against freedom of the press and all that, but there was even accusations that his daughter is involved with the Clinton campaign. If that's the case, you know what? He's just another provocateur, in my opinion. He's trying to get all the Latinos going after Donald Trump. And, you know, my person, myself, like I said, I'm not a Trump supporter. I'm not going to jump on the hype. But like I said, he has his pros and cons. There's things I'm not crazy about. And there's things I will give him the thumbs up on, but his action has to speak louder than words. However, it's a little cute commentary by John Rappaport to make people think a lot bigger, or other words, outside of the box, or broader, greater dynamics, because it's a lot more complex than what it is. And like I said before, I know the establishment is ticked off at Donald Trump, because they're pushing for the little golden boy and girl, which many people believe, Hillary Clinton and Jeb Bush. I'm not saying it's set in stone, but you please always prepare yourselves. So that was a cool little commentation. And here's another one here from personalliberty.com. And this is entitled, Associated Press Sues After FBI Impersonates Journalists and Sting Operation. It's Tribune News Service of Washington, D.C. accusing the Justice Department of stonewalling. The Associated Press have filed a lawsuit against the FBI for failing to turn in over information under the Freedom of Information Act about a criminal sting operation in which it creates a bogus news story and impersonated an AP journalist. The federal suit filed in U.S. District Court in Washington, D.C. also demanded that the government catalog all instances since 2000 when it has impersonated the news media, that it disclose its internal policies governing the practice. The media group says that it learned last October that the FBI had masqueraded as a member of the news media, specifically as the AP, in order to deliver surveillance software to a criminal suspect's computer. Investigating 2007 bomb threat in Lacey, Washington, the FBI emailed a 15-year-old suspect a link to a fake AP news story, according to the lawsuit. When the suspect clicked on the link, he unwittingly downloaded surveillance software that allowed the government to track its whereabouts. When the tactics were revealed publicly last year, some media officials and lawmakers criticized the Justice Department for using deceptive practices, but Justice Department officials defended their actions. Hoping to learn more about the practice, the AP filed a FOIA request last year, but the government has said it could take 649 days to gather the materials, the AP says. While the FOA suits does not directly challenge whether the government's conduct violates press freedoms under the First Amendment, it raises questions about whether law enforcement officials can endanger the reputation of news organizations or damaging the credibility of sources by impersonating journalists and criminal investigations. I think that AP has a strong suit for documents under FOIA, but it very difficult claim under the First Amendment, said Erin Chemerinsky, Dean of the University of California Irving School of Law. That said, I find government's conduct to be deeply disturbing. The Justice Department officials declined to comment for this article. Legal experts noted the government is typically given wide latitude in conducting criminal investigations, even if that requires using deception to gather information. The law is clear that the police can tell lies to suspects as part of investigation. Undercover work is legal, said Aaron Kaplan, a professor at Loyola Law School. Since the undercover officer can pretend to be a drug dealer, he said that there did not seem to be material difference if the officer pretends to be a journalist. But in a letter then to U.S. Attorney General Eric Holder last October, AP's General Counsel Karen Kaiser said the government's conduct raised serious constitutional concerns. By creating false news accounts misrepresenting the source of a news story and falsely attributing it to the AP, the FBI undermined the most fundamental component of a free press, its independence, Kaiser wrote. Such actions also compromise our ability to gather the news safely and effectively in parts of the world where our credibility rests on the basis of the AP operating freely and independently, she added. Kaplan agreed that impersonating reporters could ultimately undermine the public's confidence in the press. I think it could erode people's trust in reporters if one of your sources doesn't know whether you're really a reporter or police, he said. They may be less willing to share information with you that hurts the public. He added that the 2007 sting did not merit using such a tactic. For this, it doesn't seem to be of the magnitude of investigation that requires this, Kaplan said. It's by Marianne Tolman Miller, Tribune, Washington Bureau. And like I say, the Associated Press has a very good point. If it's okay for a police officer impersonate an AP reporter, if someone impersonates a police officer, your behind could be thrown in jail. Interesting, right? But that's just part of a little sting with governmental delegates. If they're gonna write something and the AP takes it and it's been totally inaccurate, yeah, that person has the right to be in question because they're doing it in bad faith. So when you got a police officer impersonating an AP reporter, that's affecting that particular entity. So this is and they may claim that they refuse to get that particular information under the FOIA Act. I told the FBI this: you better send them the damn documents, or not. Then you expose yourselves as a bunch of frauds and hypocrites and part of the demoniac oligarch. So that's one thing I have to say on this area about this whole sting operation. I see a lot of double standards, and it's totally unacceptable. And I hope that if the Associated Press has merit and they can get it, go for it. That's all I gotta say. Get the documents, and I will, and please put it out there for everyone can read it and share it, because credibility is the best policy. All right, another thing happened here. This one here came from the New Hampshire Union Leader. Came out yesterday, to be exact, August 27th. It's entitled here, Another View. Michael F. Cannon on Healthcare. Walker and Rubio offer Obamacare light. This is by Michael F. Cannon. Republican presidential candidates Governor Scott Walker and Senator Marco Rubio have put forward a plan to repeal and replace Obamacare. Unfortunately, their replaced proposals are best described as Obamacare light. The centerpiece of both replaced plans and a refundable tax credit for health insurance. Yes, such tax credits already exist in Obamacare. Also, like Obamacare, the Walker-Rubio tax credits would allow Washington to decide how much coverage you purchase, penalize you if you don't buy that government-defined plan, and conceal massive redistribution of income under the rubric of tax cuts. Why bother repealing Obamacare to only recreate its worst features? Conservatives who lean toward tax credits cry slander when critics label them Obamacare light, just as conservatives who supported an individual mandate in the 1990s cried slander when critics argued it amounted to a government takeover of healthcare. But let's look at the facts. A healthcare tax credit functions exactly like an individual mandates under both proposals. If you choose not to buy government-designed health plan, even if you want to buy coverage just less than the government requires, the IRS takes more of your money. Under Walker's plan, the effective penalty can reach $7,800 for a family of 4. Under a tax credit, Washington would exercise as much control over your health plan as it does under Obamacare's individual mandate, just as Congress must define what level of coverage lets you avoid that explicit penalty. It would define what level of coverage lets you avoid tax credits implicit penalty. Special interests would have the same incentive and ability to force you to buy coverage you don't want, as with Obamacare. Again, like Obamacare, the Rex Rubio tax credits are refundable, so if you have no income tax liability, or if just less than the amount of credit, you can get a check from the government. We don't have numbers on Walker's or Rubio's plan, but Obamacare's tax credits are roughly 80% of government spending. With a Republican imprimatur on such spending, Obamacare supporters could probably increase spending more than they could under the Obamacare itself. How would Walker and Rubio pay for their new spending? Would they keep Obamacare's tax increases, raises taxes elsewhere? Would they finance new health care spending by cutting existing health care programs? If so, chalk up yet another way their plan would resemble Obamacare. Conservatives can offer a better replace plan that is politically feasible by expanding a bedrock conservative initiative, health savings accounts, or HSAs, which already enable 14.5 million Americans to save more than $28.4 billion for their medical expenses tax-free. Expanding HSAs would give workers a $9 trillion effective tax cut without cutting spending or increasing deficit, and would drastically reduce government controls over Americans' health decisions. Most important, large HAAs would spur innovation to make the healthcare better, cheaper, and more secure, particularly for the most vulnerable. Because Congress does not tax employer-paid health insurance premiums, the vast majority of Americans with private coverage get it through an employer, yet employers finance such coverage with money they would otherwise pay workers, an average of $12,000 per worker with the family coverage, for a total of $735 billion this year and $9.1 trillion over 10 years. Larger HSAs would let workers take their money as a tax-free HSA contribution and thereby let taxpayers own and control $9 trillion of their earnings that someone else currently controls. That's an effect tax cut appeal to all of the Reagan and Bush tax cuts combined, and the 9 times more than taxes would fall by repealing Obamacare. Workers could use those funds to remain in their employer plan, purchase better coverage elsewhere, buy medical care directly, or save for future medical needs, all tax-free. Moreover, large HSAs involve no income redistribution and create no dependence on government. They would bring health care within reach of those with low incomes by turning hundreds of millions of other Americans into cost-conscious consumers who force prices downward. As with tax credits, government would define which health plan consumers could purchase with tax-free large HSA funds, but those rules would be far less restrictive because consumers wouldn't have to buy coverage to get the tax benefits. Few special interests would demand mandate coverage of their services if they know consumers have the freedom not to buy it. Large HSAs thus allow innovations that Obamacare and tax credits inhibit, including higher deductibles, health plans with total satisfaction guarantee, and pre-existing condition insurance. For decades, prominent conservative advocates an individual mandate. The left then picked up the idea and gave us Obamacare before they once again fall into the same trap. Conservatives should drop any support for the implicit mandate of health insurance tax credits. Expanding HSA is more compassionate and provide a direct route toward freedom and better health care. This was done by Michael F. Cannon. He's a director of health policy studies at the Cato University. So he does have some, interesting views there about, instead of relying on the whole Affordable Care Act. And like I tell people on this, if Rubio and Walker has this other thing called Obamacare Light, if they get offended, you know what? Too bad, because I do find this that's a pretty damn ludicrous agenda, according to this article. But the whole thing is this: if they would have abolished the HMO Act in 1973, because that's what got the healthcare into a bigger crisis, we would have been a lot better off than with the Affordable Care Act, when everyone goes out there like listen to the live, okay, yeah, that's great. What do you want? Health care. What do you want now? They're all marching around and don't even have a damn clue what the concept's about. And when they had that over 900 plus page debacle, everyone applauded. Oh yeah, we got good health care now. And you know what? It just blew back in your faces, my friends. Because I know a lot of other unions, the Carpenters Union, there are a lot of people even in my union and within the alliance, Station Alliance, are questioning the ACA because they took the initiative on reading it. So when someone in Nancy Pelosi goes, "Oh, we have to vote on it first, and we can read it," you know what? She should have had a good punch in the mouth by a freedom-loving, sovereign-thinking woman. That's how I feel about Nancy Pelosi. But however, Michael Cannon has some good points on here because, like I said, he's trying to make it less government controlled with the HSA. So he has some good points, but like I said, if you would have got rid of, in my view, if you would have repealed the HMO Act in 1973 instead of legislating for the ACA, we would have been a lot better off. It may not be perfect, but a lot better off. So that's all I'm going to say about that. Next one. Here's gun related. Okay, I got this from I got this from on a tweet, and it says this is from the Illinois Gun Owners' Rights. Whoa, sorry about that. No compromise. And this one's entitled "Another Mass Shooting in Gun-Free France." Oh yeah. Put your hands in the air. The French citizen self-defense technique. It came out, it's by Brandon Pruitt, came out a couple days ago, and it's from the BBC, and it says here, a gunman has killed 3 members of the same family, including the baby and a police officer, during a shooting spree at a travelers camp in northeastern France. The suspect, who was a member of the traveler community in the town of Roye, it was Roye, killed a 6-month-old baby, a woman, and a man believed to be a grandfather during the attack that took place around 4:30 p.m. near Intermarché supermarket. The suspect greeted arriving police with the wave of gunfire, seriously injuring a 44-year-old officer who later died and slightly wounding another. The suspect, who seriously wounded a 3-year-old child before police shot and injured him, ending the violence. It will be interesting to see how this fits the narrative of this type of mass violence does not happen in other advanced countries from the President of the United States, Barack Hussein Obama. There's a link for that too. At what point will the leaders of civilized nations stop with their bleeding hearts for violently insane people? At what point will these leaders stop their seemingly endless quest to disarm law-abiding people, make them nothing but sitting ducks for would-be psychopaths? Evil will always exist, whether or not guns do, and since there is no magic wand to make either disappear, it only seems fitting to heed these words of advice. And it says here, if someone has a gun and is trying to kill you, it would be reasonable to shoot back with your own gun. It's from the Dalai Lama in the Seattle Times, May 15th, 2015. There's a link for that too. And of course, there's another thing too on the documented facts, 23-page documented facts of that one person that shot. So you can look at that also about nut jobs. And like I said, welcome to France, the land of privileges. Government knows best. And so that's just an example about why anti-self-defense zones don't work. It's nothing more than a wet dream. It's not going around flaunting and showing yourself like, look what I got. I want to take a photo of me having my guns. No. Absolutely not. That's completely inapplicable. However, human nature, we have to be in the first line of defense. The police can't be everywhere. Doesn't matter what country you're at, what city or state. Technically, they're not obligated to protect you. You should need to defend yourselves, families, and bystanders. And I'm not saying go around being Rambo and being macho, but have it with honor and good faith. Many things happen. I'll give you an example of the United States. They're trying to push this gun control. They're trying to push this exploiting what happened in Virginia with those reporters. Some people may question it, say doesn't look kosher. I have examined the videos, and I have a few things. Respectfully, I have a few things I have to question myself. But right now, I'm going to say it's a tragic event. And crackpots and criminals are going to get it one way or the other. So you can make all these laws you want. It's ineffective. Because remember, we have natural born rights. It supersedes their tyrannical rhetoric. So France is just another example of possibly a civilized nation, and they have crime as well, and look what happens. Government knows best. Bend over and get it in your rectum. And I know I'm being a little sarcastic. I'm not trying to be nasty or anything like that. It's just being me. So, okay, well, the next one here is another gun-related report. And this came from the Firearms Policy Coalition. And it came out a few days ago. And it says here, California waiting periods ruled unconstitutional. The federal court decides 10-day waiting period laws violate Second Amendment rights. This is in Roseville, California. California's 10-day waiting period for gun purchases was ruled unconstitutional by a federal judge this morning by a significant victory for the Second Amendment civil rights. The laws were challenged by California gun owners Jeffrey Sylvester and Brandon Combs, as well as two gun rights groups, the Cal Gun Foundation and the Second Amendment Foundation. In a decision that released this morning, Federal Eastern District of California Senior Judge Anthony W. Ishii, appointed to the bench by President Bill Clinton, found the 10-day waiting periods of Penal Code Sections 26815A and 540A violate the Second Amendment as applied to members of certain classifications like Sylvester and Combs, and the burdens the Second Amendment rights of the plaintiffs. It is a great one for the Second Amendment and civil rights and common sense, suggests Sylvester, the named individual plaintiff. It couldn't be happier with how this case turned out. Under the court order, the California Department of Justice must change its system of accommodate the unobstructed release of guns to gun buyers who pass a background check and possess a California license to carry a handgun or hold a certificate of eligibility issued by the DOJ and already possess at least one firearm known to the state. Under the federal court, the California Department of Justice must change its system to accommodate the obstructed gun release to gun buyers I think I already said that. Okay, it's been repeated. It says here, we are happy that the Second Amendment rights are being acknowledged and protected by our courts. Donald Comer, lead attorney for the plaintiffs. This case is one more example on how the judicial branch brings balance of government in order to ensure our liberty. I am elated that we are able to successfully vindicate the rights of our clients. Attorney Victor Anna of Torrance and Jason Davis of Mission Viejo, who are co-counsel for the plaintiffs. The ruling clearly addressed the issue we put before the court. The SCA founder and executive vice president Alan Gullip, we are naturally delighted with the outcome. California gun owners are not second-class citizens, and the Second Amendment doesn't protect second-class rights. Noted plaintiff Brandon Combs, also GCF's executive director. The decision is an important step forward, restoring fundamental individual liberties in the Golden State. This victory provides a strong foundation for which other irrational and unconstitutional gun control laws will be challenged, concluded Combs. We look forward on just doing that. The court decision can be read and downloaded. There's a decision on there, and they can tell you media contacts for Calguns Foundation. It's Brandon Combs, BC Combs at calgunsfoundation.org, or you could dial 800-566-2009, extension 5775, or Second Amendment Foundation by Alan Gullip. I hope I pronounced his name right. It's 425-454-7021. And I am very pleased to hear that. And even there's a downloaded version of this. And maybe, let me see. Looks like it's been deleted. Allegedly. Interesting. Well, we might have to look for that case. That shouldn't be a big deal. So, we're just gonna check that out for sure. And I know this has been good. This is some very good news. And of course, I put this up there enough times. You can go to Article 1, Section 1 of the California Constitution about the natural born rights are inalienable. So all these gun laws they did, 10-day waiting periods, is null and void. And I believe what's fantastic, we can use this on the 3-day waiting period in the state of Florida and the county options as well. This is a fantastic opportunity to bring this to their faces and do a big challenge. So this is just another movement of our Bill of Rights culture, which is not just the Second Amendment U.S. Constitution, but the Ninth Amendment. But even California's Article 1, Section 1 is self-explanatory, null and void. Just read Article 1 of the California Constitution. I'm not going to post it on there, but you can look it up yourself, and you please read it thoroughly, and you know that I am saying this on a memorable fashion. So I am very delighted this occurred, and I give homage to these gentlemen. And what's interesting, because I know the late Aaron Zellman and Alan Gullip, they did have little battles. Of course, Aaron Zellman was a hard-nosed maverick, and I respect the man dearly. But everyone has their methods of doing things differently. This is how it goes. So, I thank them for making this happen. And I know Jerry Brown and all the little stooges, well, you know what? Too bad, because you're not more than trees pieces of garbage. Plain and simple. And if people in California, you sympathizers in California don't like it, that roll over for the government, too bad, because deep down inside, you know I'm right. Alright, my friends, that's some great news. And a couple here from the Activist Post. And this is very disturbing, these next two articles. I'm just doing a little switch around here. Boom. Alright. And this one here came out yesterday. Is by Tony Carlucci. I think he does stuff for New Eastern Outlook, and Land Destroyer. I recommend subscribe. Follow them on Facebook and Twitter. Like them on Twitter. Like them on Facebook. Follow them on Twitter. A little tongue tie there, but this is pretty chilling here. It says here, total war in Yemen totally ignored by Western media, and it says here, with almost a whimper, the Western media reported that the U.S.-backed regimes of Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and their auxiliary fighters drawn from Al-Qaeda have begun carrying out with the ground invasion of Yemen. Along with an ongoing naval blockade and months of bomb raidings, the ground invasion adds lethal new dimensions to the conflict for both sides. Landing at the port of Aden on Yemen's southern tip, it is reported that an armored brigade consisting of between 1,000 and 3,000 troops, primarily from the UAE, are now moving north. Their ultimate destinations, Sana'a, the capital of Yemen. Columns of the UAE's French-built Leclerc main battle tanks were moving out of the port city. Through their numbers are difficult to establish. Reports claiming that the UAE units, its brigade size might indicate as many as 100 tanks involved, a third of the UAE's total armored force. The bold comes after months of frustrating failures for the two Arabian regimes. Their Yemeni proxies, loyalists of the ousted President Abd Rabbu Mansour Hadi, proved all but useless in fighting Houthi fighters across most of Yemen, despite air superiority provided to them by their Arabian allies. And while it appears the well-equipped Arab forces are able to concentrate firepower overwhelming Houthi fighters in pitched battles, the ability for Saudi, UAE, and Al-Qaeda forces to actually hold territory they move through is questionable at best. Opportunity. The Roman Empire throughout much of its reign was feared as invincible. After suffering major defeats, the veneer of invincibility began to peel and along when it crumbled inevitably their empire. Likewise, Western hegemony, hope I pronounced that right, have been propped up by the illusion of military superiority on the battlefield. By carefully picking its battles and avoiding critical defeats, the West and the U.S. in particular has maintained this illusion of military invincibility. As the U.S. moves against nations with larger and better equipped and trained armies, it has elected to use proxies to fight on its behalf. Thus, any humiliating defeat could be compartmentalized. However, by most accounts, the war in Yemen is not only a proxy war between Iran and the Persian Gulf monarchies, it is one of the several such conflicts raging regionally that constitutes a wider proxy war between the U.S. and its regional allies on one side and Iran, Syria, Russia, and even China on the other. Because China has a relationship with Iran. With presence of the Western main battles tanks in Yemen attempting to move north, the opportunity now presents itself to punch holes through its illusion of Western invincibility. Yemen as the graveyard for an alleged brigade of the French-built Leclerc main battle tanks would be one such hole. It would also set the UAE's extraterritorial military ambitions back, if not overturn them entirely, and finally will leave whether fighting was left in Yemen to the Saudis, who have thus far proven incompetent. Perhaps this is one of the many reasons the Western media has decided not to cover the events unfolding in Yemen. Yemen versus Ukraine. One might ask, in the context of international law, it is possible for unelected absolute atrocities like Saudi Arabia and the UAE intervene militarily in Yemen and with naval blockades, aerial bombardments, and now an overt ground invasion, including armored columns, to restore an oust regime. This is done with seemingly little concern from the United Nations and with enthusiastic support, both politically and militarily, on the United States. The answer to this question becomes more confounding still when considering Western condemnation of Russia for any attempt to support or defend the ousted government of Ukraine, a nation now overrun by NATO-backed neo-Nazi militias who turn in are backing a criminal regime in Kyiv, which includes foreigners assigned to cabinet positions or even as governors. Saudi and UAE military aggression in Yemen makes it increasingly difficult for the West to maintain the illusion of moral superiority regarding Ukraine. Russia's relative restraint when compared to U.S.-backed aggression on the Arabian Peninsula exposes once again the pervasive hypocrisy consuming Western legitimacy. This may be yet another reason the Western media refuses to cover the events unfolding in Yemen. It's just part of the one world order, in my views. And of course, I talk about Ukraine in the past, about the grand chessboard. Hopefully, people can take the initiative on checking it out. Go to the book library, go look it up online. You have it in a PDF format. This is very, very dangerous, and this is how the one world order want to use nations, including the United States. The United States are just the pawns and patsies, okay? Just to let you folks know. We are a patsy nation. And I'm still very infuriated about this. And I condemn this proudly. And I don't give a damn all you warmongering demonods will say it to me on that. If you like me or not, who cares? And I will continue on here. Responsibility to protect. Here's a question mark on here. After NATO's attempt to invoke the responsibility to protect R2P as justification for the destruction of Libya, it became clear that NATO was merely hiding behind the principles of humanitarian concern, not upholding them. Of course, it's obvious. And while it may be difficult to believe, there are still those across the Western media policy think tanks attempting to use R2P to justify further military aggression against nations like Syria. However, R2P is conveniently absent amid what little talk of Yemen that does take place in the Western media. U.S.-backed blockades and months of aerial bombardments have tipped Yemen toward a humanitarian catastrophe. Not only does both the UN and the West fail to demand an end to the bombing and blockades, the West has continued to underwrite Saudi Arabia and UAE's military adventure in Yemen. The carnage and injustice visit upon Yemen served as yet another stark example of how the West and its institutions, including the United Nations, are the greatest danger to global peace and stability, using the pretext of defending such ideas as a means to instead undo them. Considering this, we discover yet another potential reason the Western media's coverage of Yemen is muted. It remains to be seen how the Houthi fighters reacted to the ground invasion of Yemen by Emirati troops, deserving severe losses to the UAE's armor while continuing to weather the aerial bombardment may see the stalling of an even withdrawal of this latest incursion, not unlike the 2006 Lebanon war where Hezbollah fighters expertly used terrain to negate Israeli advantage in air power and armor, forcing an early end to the fighting. The Houthis may yet answer this latest move by the U.S.-backed proxies operating in Yemen. Perhaps this possibility above all is why the Western media would rather the general public knew of little of what's going on in Yemen. It would represent yet another conventional Western-equipped proxy army defeated by irregular forces, and yet another failed campaign fought in the interest of Wall Street and Washington. While the Western media refuses to cover the events unfolding in Yemen with the attention and honesty they deserve, the conflict is nonetheless pivotal. Has some bugs around here. I'm outside. And may determine the outcome of other proxy wars raging across the Middle East and North Africa and even beyond. Yep, that's another thing on the war on terror. I say this is actually World War III, as far as I'm concerned, and many of us have been paying attention to this even since 9/11. All right, it's not just affect the country, just the United States, but the world. and look what's going on in Yemen. They did some stuff like, oh yeah, the Yemenis cut Christians or Arabs, Saudis' heads off, so they went down there to attack. I'm like, let me tell you something. Saudi Arabia don't really give a damn about their own people. They treat them like pieces of garbage. All right, and how come we don't the United States government and the UN don't question them? Okay, how come you don't question Saudi Arabia? Something to think about. And of course, the so-called 19 hijackers came from Saudi Arabia. How come we didn't attack Saudi Arabia? How come the United States didn't attack Saudi Arabia? And furthermore, another good example about them harboring terrorists. Idi Amin, the dictator general from Uganda, when Tanzania invaded, Idi Amin retreated and stayed in the rest of his life in Saudi Arabia in exile until the day he died. And I told everyone that in 2002 that Saudi Arabia has harbored a terrorist. This is really what the one world order wants. They want chaos. They want to destroy innocent people for their own personal gain. It is a total monumental deception, and I condemn this with a passion. These vultures deserve to be indicted for war crimes, masterminds, and patsies beyond. And I recommend people should check on Yemen and share this to everyone. The lamestream media don't want you to know about it, but I do. This is why I do. That's why I do various topics, and I have my faves, but I always try to vary. But this one here is very disturbing. Even men like Gerald Salente talks about Alex Jones and Stu Webb. Like them or not, doesn't matter. But they are putting this out there to give them the main idea. It has to be addressed. I'm tired of these atrocities. It's driving me crazy, but I can't just go and scream and yell about it. It's never been my cause, my nature. I get mad, yeah, but on principle. This garbage has to stop. So please, I beseech everyone that's listening, share all this information to everyone you know, including in your social media network. This has to end. These wars is sucking all of us dry. Even to our fellow soldiers, our brothers and sisters who are fighting, doesn't matter where they're from. They're suffering as well. Alright. Next one here from Activist Post as well is by Bernie Suarez. It came out yesterday, I think it was. Yeah. Ooh, excuse me. That could be it. But it's entitled, New Report Takes Cheap Shot at Organic Foods with Recall Scare. It is by Bernie Suarez. It says here, a new report of data intended to be used as propaganda, in this case against foods that are genetically modified. A company called Stericycle has produced data says that proves organic foods recalls are up. The news reports, of course, was recently spread by U.S. corporate media as a substitute propaganda campaign to directly condemn organic foods in hopes of offsetting growing consumer confidence and demanding for organics. All no doubt to the delight and support of GMO food producers like Monsanto. No one should be surprised by this, considering that Stericycle is a global publicly traded company who also owns Biosystems and is also a U.S. leading company for Sharps Management Services. In other words, Stericycle profits immensely from selling needle and syringe disposal plastic containers to hospitals globally. This statement is from their own site. Today, we operate in Asia, Europe, North America, and South America, and employ more than 18,000 people worldwide. Our business primary in each of these markets focuses on providing integrated solutions for the management of medical waste, and thus in their interest for people to use hospitals and remain sick, since they are deeply intertwined with the profits surrounding hospitals and sickness. It's no wonder, therefore, that Stericycle would play such a central role in putting out information that ignores the overall insignificance of this data. Because when you take into account the full picture, that you consider the marked increase in demand for organic foods, the recalls have actually not changed at all. The organic trade Trade Association has already come out and flatly called out the lies put out by Stericycle. Senior Director Grindold Wired has stated, a key point in mind that is an overall increase in organic recalls between 2012 and 2015 would not be surprising, not because organic food is less safe, but because of the dramatic increase in organic food sales and purchases that we've been seeing in this country. Vice President Stericycle Kevin Pollak quietly admits that the reason for the rise in recalls is partly because of the enormous increase for demand for organic foods. Despite this quiet admission, Pollak goes on to spread organic food psyop phobia, stating what is striking that since 2012, all organic recalls have been driven by bacterial contamination like Salmonella, Listeria, and Hepatitis A, rather than the problem with the label. This is a fairly serious and really important issue because lots of consumers just aren't aware of it. Just like that, Pollak leaves that to the U.S. corporate media to spread the propaganda from there. The propaganda here is too subtle and transparent to anyone not paying attention, but it's quite obvious to anyone who is. The message being conveyed here is that genetically modified foods are somehow safer than organic foods, and that organic non-GMO foods are becoming increasingly dangerous. Let's consider a few things. Let's remove our Aurelian hats for a moment. First, there is no such thing as per se as organic food. We can call it organic, but most importantly, it is natural and is real. Everything else is not real. Natural or organic is fake. Genetically modified or synthetic. Sadly, the GMO psyop is so deep today that control system has everyone thinking that genetically modifying things is a normal thing to do, and somehow genetically modifying things open you up to danger, illness, and death and destruction. Pro-GMO psyop stages. As we review the first level of this secret pro-GMO psyop, we consider that the first intent of this propaganda piece is to make that weird special category for called organics seem like perhaps doesn't belong in our world. It is culprit bacterial spreading, and it is therefore a problem for humanity. Organic foods are being painted as somehow bad for you. The second level of this pro-GMO psyops is that once the problem is offered, organic foods are responsible for spreading bacteria, that we must come up with a solution. That solution, of course, not mentioned here, is to perhaps cut down on organics, or maybe get rid of them altogether. The replacement problem-solving food, of course, is genetically modified foods. The one way with the tiny microscopic labels that one can read with the paragraph-size list of ingredients of things of us can't pronounce. Third level of this pro-psyop is that nowhere in these corporate media stories or issued reports are the dangers of GMO foods mentioned. Let's not forget that the GMO foods are banned in many countries, and for good reason. That's because genetically modified foods are dangerous, yet these dangers are completely ignored to the delight of Monsanto, Syngenta, and other GMO giants. Health and safety is not something to debate. I would rather risk a self-limited bacterial infection with the healthy immune system can take on than to alter my DNA and ingest a cancer-causing and other chronic human disease-causing food. The fact is that outside of nature's natural organic foods, there are no safe choices. The truth they don't want you to know is that GMOs should be banned forever. This is about science, health, common sense, and morality. The controllers layer these deceptions, and they point you in the opposite direction. So instead of looking at the GMO problem, they want everyone instead of fear organic foods. Something from the, of course, Ed Benaze's playbook propaganda. All right, we'll continue on here. Have you considered this, that perhaps this is the very early stages of a future aggressive campaign against organic foods? Have you considered that perhaps this is a propaganda beta test to see how people react to the story? I believe this is very possible. These subtle stories usually grow in size later on. Perhaps later on, they'll stage a massive outbreak and they'll blame it on organics. The public would then be forced vaccine style to eat GMO foods. Imagine that. Remember the measles outbreak of psyops of 2014? We all saw how it morphed into forced vaccination bills, SB 277 in states like California, which it sticks will surely be a template for an attempt at a federal mandatory bill. Don't forget the measles story came out. Small sections for the months throughout 2014. Mainstream media kept trying different angles on it. Then, by the end of the year, they switched from measles to Ebola and gauged everyone's reactions on it. Before you knew it, if they employed Hollywood celebrity mockings anti-vaxxers, funded several pro-vaccine campaigns, and the rest is history. So don't be fooled by subtle, seemingly innocent stories about a new report that suggests that organic food recalls are up, and how serious this is. This is just a propaganda from the same people who have given us many other recent studies, new data, and reports, always spinning a narrative, sometimes slowly, sometimes more aggressively, toward the profit of choice. We should all be aware by how that essentially all scientific research, medical claims are absolutely untrustable and fraudulent, especially when we observe the synchronicical spread of these study results by the mainstream media, only to later on observe that these studies' conclusions seem to always have political or corporate profit ramifications. So nothing should surprise us from the empire that tells us that new study shows that cancer is just bad luck, or everything needs to be genetically controlled, instead of considering the environmental factor like eating healthy and pursuing a healthy lifestyle, so you can minimize your trips to the doctor and not waste so much money on hospital bills. Thank you very much. I like that completely. Solutions. Eating healthy, I believe, is the most important thing you can do. Dump doctors and expensive tyrannical medical hospital systems out of your life. Health begins during conception, continues after birth, then throughout your life. This is why it's so important to avoid everything that is unnatural as much as possible. Don't let multi-trillion-dollar vaccine maker or pharmaceutical companies tell you their GMO food, drug, or vaccine is safe. They only tell you that because safe claims means trillions of dollars for them, especially if they can get the government to force you to take their product. Aside from pursuing personal health as a token of self-ownership and self-responsibility, let's continue to pursue solutions in the form of interdependence. Share health knowledge with one another and help make healthy foods available to one another. If you can, now is the time to grow your own food and become familiar with what medicinal values organic foods have. The most important goal is to boost the immune system and thus strive to make governments' medical tyrannical system obsolete, since many diseases are based on functional compromise of your body and a depleted, improperly working immune system. I believe doctors, including many medical doctors, will eventually go to where the demand is, given that most of them are well-meaning and their hearts are committed to evidence-based medicine. Many of them will begin to see a greater agenda at play, and there are many signs this is already happening. Ultimately, health is an individual thing, and there is no other topic that requires self-accountability and responsibility more than your own health. As always, it starts with you. Eating healthy organic foods is one of the easiest and most powerful and effective things people can do. Start dumping affects things people can do to start dumping the control system. It's no wonder they are slowly preparing the propaganda for what appears to be a long but eventually losing battle. And I have to agree with Mr. Suarez on this. We have to control our own destiny, including our health. Now with the information age, it has been progressing little by little. And as if you hear these organic food recall scare, don't believe the hype. Because right there, when they do that, and you examine it thoroughly, and if it's unmeritable, that means we'll be winning. I do recommend people to start creating their own garden. I gotta do that. I have the seeds, but I haven't done it, haven't planted them yet. But it's gonna happen, I'll guarantee you that. I want to make it happen one way or the other. And other people I know are interested as well. Sorry about that, I'm almost on there for a moment. So like I said, you control your own health, do it for your children's sake and beyond, because then we can have a healthier immune system and we can eliminate a lot more diseases when we control our own health. And even the old scholars, Bible scholars, talk about a lot like what's in the world can heal. I don't care what your belief system is, but you gotta look at everything to a bigger picture. But that's why our health is our main thing. I'm cutting down. I cut down a lot of processed food. I'm going to do it completely. Yeah, I'm going to do it completely. Going to do it completely as soon as I can. But I am doing a lot better. And people see me. They are surprised at my age. I look pretty good for my age. There's people younger than me that look horrendous. They haven't taken care of themselves. That's why you own your own body. You're responsible for your children. And beyond. So definitely make this a reality on organic foods. Tell them, give the thumbs up. I endorse it. You should too. Don't believe the propaganda hype of fear when it comes to recalls, because when they do that, it has to be good. For us, that is. Alright, finally, I went to allgov.com. Originally, I got this from a tweet from Blacklisted News. There's a Doug Owens. Yeah, Doug Owens, good guy, man. You should check his show out. He's pretty. He does a lot of research as well, and it's really good stuff. This one here says, despite admitting to voting fraud at the last two presidential elections, county officials in Atlanta get off with just $180,000 in penalties. A key county with a large population of black voters has been fined $180,000 for breaking state voting laws more than 24 times. More than 24 times. So more than 24 times. Interesting, huh? Fulton County, home of Atlanta, has a significant number of black voters who vote Democratic, kept thousands of voters of having their ballot included in the final results of the 2008 and 2012 elections. Officials admitted to illegally disenfranchising and misleading voters and to violations of improperly rejecting eligibility ballots and sending voters to the wrong precincts, according to Think Progress. They also failed to comply with voters' requests for absentee ballots, provided wrong information to precincts about who was coming to vote and when, and failed to add the rolls for voters who registered in a timely manner, among other violations. The controversy cost the job of the head of Fulton County's election office, who claimed she was fired for refusing to cover up improper purging of thousands of voters from the rolls in 2012. The names of 9,600 voters weren't included on registrations lists as polling places that year, forcing those individuals to cast provisional ballots. Georgia has recorded of disenfranchising voters of color, including its 2006 enactment of one country's strictest voter ID laws. During the past several years, the state reduced the number of early voting days from 45 to 21, and this year made an unsuccessful attempt to cut the 21 days down to 12. This year also saw cancellation of registration of hundreds of thousands of voters, reportedly in error, resulting in the resignation of Georgia's Director of Elections. In addition to paying a $180,000 fine, Fulton County promised to spend $200,000 software to better train their poll workers. It is done by Noel Brinkenhoff and Danny Biederman, and there's other links on here as well that talks about the subject. And it's pretty amazing when people's rights are being deprived. And I would say this respectfully to all those voters who got disparaged on their rights, they should file a lawsuit in Fulton County or the state of Georgia, it doesn't matter, by going after them under Title 42, United States Code, Section 1983, to be compensated on violating your constitutional rights. That's where you get them, where it really hurts. It should be a class action lawsuit on those individuals that got their rights violated. $108,000 a penalty is just a slap in the wrist, as far as I'm concerned. And who mostly pays for it? Tax dollars, most likely. Hey, you're paying their people's salary, so go think about that. So it's going back to them. Come on, give me a break. Totally ludicrous. It's very disturbing, my friends. And, it's not because even though the presidential elections, legally, we're just endorsers for the president and vice presidential tickets. But the other areas on your state, on your House, your Senate, U.S. Senate, state legislators, local municipalities, servants, etc., local candidates too, etc. I said that twice. Sorry about that. Can be affected as well. I think people in Georgia should take the initiative on bombarding these people. And I say too, look at your Georgia Constitution as well. I'm not gonna really, I might just add it on air, and so if you just actually look at yourselves, I'll be out of fairness. I'm gonna add the Georgia Constitution. You can examine it yourself. I'm getting ready to fall asleep. Good grief! I'm sorry about that. But I'll add that to the footnotes so people can take a look at it themselves. All right. And that is all, my friends. Thank you for listening. Plus, please feel free on downloading and sharing this throughout your social media network. If you have any questions, comments, criticisms, recommendations, hate letters, love letters, it doesn't matter, etc. Or you want to send me some good information, please always use it with decorum. You can hit me on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Spreaker, and iHeartRadio. Thanks again for your time. Plus, always remember that the demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves, keep on spreading the love, and may your guardian spirits be with you.